what you do?
I'm not sure why he's not with the team right now, but there certainly should be opportunities for him.
You think I have a problem with a man that is kneeling and protesting racial oppression and police brutality? Do you know anything about my history?
Georgetown sociology professor Dr. Michael Eric Dyson back with us. He has a new book out today, Jay-Z Made in America. And if you're just joining us, I want to continue our earlier conversation. We were talking about Jay-Z and how influential he's been now in the sports world. Mm-hmm. And Max, I think you have a bit of skepticism potentially with his role in the NFL. Can you
just if you're covering anyone journalistically, of course you have to be skeptical or cynical at least about their stated purposes. And he has, obviously, he wants to own a team eventually. And so you wonder, he has great executive skills, Jay-Z. It is unclear to me, Professor, whether this situation with Kaepernick is Jay-Z playing Goodell, Goodell playing Jay-Z, they're both playing Kaepernick, or something like someone doesn't come in and change the world all at once. Jay-Z is going to profit as he makes some kind of a marginal change, and then the next person can make more of a change, and so on. But the truth of the matter, if there is one, is unclear to me.
When Jesse Jackson was involved in the civil rights movement at his height, we know he's still an iconic figure. He would often protest outside, forced them. Texaco had a horrible situation where a tape was released about black people that was stigmatizing them with the N-word. He was outside with a protest sign. Then when Texaco said, let us shift strategies and try to talk, he came inside and negotiated. The consequence was more than $100 million for those particular employees. Now, it didn't always end up that way, but Jesse Jackson always had it. Messy Jesse. He's in it for himself. How much is he on the take for? How much is he getting? He changed the landscape for African-American business people in terms of Nike, in terms of car industries, in terms of a range of corporate arrangements. It is always messy. It is never neat. And
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Not only that, but when you're trying to parse the difference between, is it Jay-Z, is it Goodell, the fact that you're raising that question means that Jay-Z has had an impact. You weren't asking this question before Jay-Z got involved. Roger Goodell and the NFL did not extend the possibility of a tryout to Kaepernick before Jay-Z's presence. Well, so I say, empirically, we have to look at it and say there's at least a strong influence that he has had.
I have to come to a very important question that I wanted to ask you because I've been thinking about this for a while. By the way, Fox just recently announced that their Super Bowl ads are sold out. $5.6 million per 30 seconds. That's a Jay-Z impact, some would argue, even though the Super Bowl obviously is as popular as it is.
Right.
What I would ask you is this. On many occasions, you brought up the Reverend Jesse Jackson,
right.
Al Sharpton,
right.
a plethora of people, whether it's the Congressional Black Caucus, as other black figures throughout the United States of America. I get phone calls from all of these people because they know that I have a daily platform to address issues. And the reason why they would call somebody like me is because they don't have the platform that I have.
Right.
When we think about Jay-Z and his relationship, this partnership with the NFL, I go back to that. Clearly, as Molly alluded to, you're in the room. Right. And you're in the room to make a difference.
Right.
From a historical perspective, which you are far more qualified to speak about than I, you know for a fact that there are many, many people in our community throughout history where it was clear, there was a clear definition of their role. Some would be in front of the cameras, some would be behind the cameras.
Absolutely.
And it was gamesmanship, strategy,
absolutely,
et cetera, et cetera. Explain to me why you think that that was ignored when it came to the criticism of Jay-Z and so many others. Could you explain that?
Well, Gore Vidal, the late great writer, said we live in the United States of amnesia. So people are addicted to forgetfulness. We forget. The point you're making is extremely valuable. And Barbara Streisand said, what's too painful to remember, we simply choose to forget. So part of it is the pain, the trauma that has been delivered to us, body blows endured for the struggle. But you're so right. When it comes to Jay-Z, we have forgotten that lesson. And let me tell you another lesson, given what you just said. Martin Luther King Jr. was bested by his white opponent in 1961 in Albany, Georgia, named Laurie Pritchard, who was a sheriff. And he said, look, I'm not going to do what these other fools have done. I'm not going to beat you up. I'm going to be nonviolent when I arrest you, and I'm going to separate you so you can't come together and strategize. It was ingenious. 2 years later, King, learning from that, applied the lesson in Birmingham where he used strategy. Let me see. If we allow them to unleash water hoses and police dogs on us at the news time, America will be mortified by what they see. It was theater. It was strategy. Furthermore, Martin Luther King Jr., he was not the only one. SNCC, other organizations, John Lewis, they got in a room. And King's staff would argue like cats and dogs. No, you're a SOB. No, you're wrong. No, you're crazy. No, this is not how it should be. In other words, they were the loyal opposition to King. They fought against his ideas and beliefs so he could be sharpened. I wish that people would understand that there's an inside-outside game and that there is a need for, even on Mr. Kaepernick's part. And you know from my appearances, my last 3 books, I've defended him. I think he's righteous. I think what he has done is amazing. I think the opposition against him from the NFL is egregious. What I also understand is there is a need for strategy. Colin Kaepernick should be in a room with other people being the loyal opposition. There's a different way you might do it. Earlier people like in earlier African-American generations would say, don't go in with a Kunta Kinte shirt, go in with a Disney shirt. Put a big smile on your face and go, hey, boys and girls, how are you? And then get inside and be like a Trojan horse and like Samson being led into the building and knock the pillars down. It's a different strategy. It's not a critique. It's saying, though, you must use strategy no matter who you are. And the more righteous your cause, the more you have to enable yourself to see what the opposition will be, know that they will never be just to you, and then fight them with all of your energy.
How much of that is because, you know, in the social media clickbait world, as polarized as everything is, it's turned into a football game. You're either with us or against us, right?
Yeah.
That nuance is lost.
Cancel culture is
and you want your little shot of righteous indignation.
Right.
You either agree or disagree.
Right.
With Stephen A. or me on a sports topic, that's trivial.
Right.
But on more important issues on social media, on Twitter or Instagram, I'm outraged. I hate this person.
Right.
And so nuance is lost.
Nuance is extremely lost. It's marginalized, and we don't have the understanding. If Martin Luther King Jr. were here today, he would be canceled 50 times a day. They would call him a sellout a Tom. In fact, they called him a sellout in the Tom. Why? Because he liked silk pajamas. So the younger people would say, that's the Lord behind his back. Oh, this is a guy who made $240,000 in 1961. Don't you know? That's good money now. Imagine what it was back then. He gave most of it to the civil rights movement, except $10,000. He gave all of his book royalties to his own school. This man literally had 4 kids and a wife to support on $10,000, borrowed money from his father every year to pay his taxes. But yet he was being called a sellout. He was being called because he liked silk pajamas. Yes, it is the lack of nuance, perspective, complicated analysis to understand that people evolve and change. Situations dictate and determine what you do. And to really merely, and Jesse Jackson said something that's extremely important as well. He said, you don't judge somebody based upon one game or one season. Look at his career average. Look at her career average. You know what? Even if you lead the league in batting, that means you've struck out 7 out of 10 times. So let's have perspective that allows nuance and complication.
Before we say goodbye, just to wrap it all up, what do you think is the end game for Colin Kaepernick and for Jay-Z?
Well, look, Colin Kaepernick is an iconic figure who will survive his career. Let's be honest, right? When his playing days are over, he will still remain a remarkably important figure. In fact, it could be argued that he's much more important as a martyred, iconic figure than he is as a football player. So let's be honest. So he will survive, and he will continue to draw to himself adherents who will move forward. Here's the tragedy, though. If the people who love and support Colin Kaepernick continue to call names to Anquan Bolden or Malcolm Jenkins, who are doing work on the ground, Benjamin Watson, who are doing work on the ground, fooling with the laws, tinkering with the legal system that they claim, and I think righteously so, that they're concerned about. Colin Kaepernick has always said, it's not about me, it's not about my job, it's not about whether I kneel, it's about the injustice that I'm pointing to. Here are other players who are actually dealing with the injustice. Inside game, outside game. You need them both. And Jay-Z,
you want to show
he's going to survive.
Show the book the way you do it. There we go.
Don't cover his name.
I can't wait to read it. I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. How about he doesn't write anything down? He's a genius. The ultimate.
I would write it if y'all could get it, but being intricate will get you wood critics. On the internet, they're like, you should spit it. I'm like, you should buy it. That's good business.
So good to have you with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
I wish I had a professor like you when I was
I wish I had somebody to translate my stuff like you. Can we go on the road? Jalen Rose, please. Thanks.
Sure. All right. Still to come is Jerry Jones making a huge mistake by not making any coaching